Now, I shall discuss with you one of the important approach of English teaching, that is structural oral situational approach, and what is called SOS. So, what is SOS? Actually, structural approach is based on the belief that in the learning of language, mastery of structure is more important than vocabulary. Means when we learn a new language this time, actually structure of that language is more important than the vocabulary of this language. So what is the procedure of this approach? Actually, in this approach, the students hear a model dialogue containing the key structures that are focuses of the lesson. Means students repeat each line of the dialogue individually or in chorus. Next, the students pay attention to the teacher, to pronunciation, intonation and fluency of the teacher. And next, the students, if make any mistakes on the grammar or pronunciation skill, then the teacher correct the pronunciation or grammar mistakes immediately. And then the dialogue is adapted to the students' interest by changing certain keywords and phrases. And next, the dialogue is acted out by students, and minimum grammatical explanations at this point can be given by the teacher. Means actually the teacher help the student to aware about the structure of the particular language which they want to learn or which is their target language. So in this method, the main emphasis is given on the oral teaching, and knowledge of structure must be linked to situations in which they could be used, and items of grammar are graded following the principle that simple forms should be taught before complex one. And actually in this approach, the target language is the medium of instruction in the classroom. And in the previous class, when we learned about the grammar translation method, then we saw that there is the main emphasis on the mother tongue, or mother tongue is there play a vital role. But in this approach, there is no role of the mother tongue. Actually here the target language is the medium of instruction in the classroom, and the students are able to award the vocabulary of the target language without any help of mother tongue. And in this case, the reading and writing are introduced once a sufficient lexical and grammatical base is established, and main emphasis is given on the communication skill of the students, and language items are not necessarily contextualized in this approach. So what is the objective of this approach? Actually, the main objective of this approach is to teach the 4 skills of language through structures of the language, and accuracy is desired in both pronunciation and grammar. Means the students are able to gain the accuracy in their pronunciation skill as well as in their grammatical knowledge, and the automatic control of basic structures and sentence patterns to be achieved by the students through their speech work. So this approach is very helpful for the students to learn English language. And so here the role of a teacher is a central and active. Means the teacher plays the central role in the approach, and he is the active member in the classroom, and he targets the modern language, and he controls and directs the pace of learning. Actually, teacher here monitors the performance of the students in the classroom and helps the students to attentive in their classwork. And the role of learner here is in the initial stage, the students is required simply to listen and repeat what the teacher are saying, and the learner is not encouraged to initiate interaction because this may lead to mistake. And in later stage, the learner is encouraged by the teacher to imitate response and ask each other questions. And At last, the learner is expected to interact with the language system embodied in machines or control materials. So, there are some advantages and disadvantages of this approach. So, the main advantages of this approach is it helps to improve the communication skill of the student, and also it helps to improve the four language skills, means reading, writing, listening and speaking skills of the students, and it emphasizes on the drilling techniques that helps to develop language habit of the students, and students are active in teaching learning process in the classroom, and the approach advocates individual attention to the students, and it stress on oral activities that helps the students to acquire good pronunciation and fluency in the target language. And there are also some disadvantages or demerits of this approach, that the students learn few structures of the language, and in this case the learning becomes mechanical owing to over emphasis on drills, and in this approach is not possible to maintain in large class of 50 or 60 students, means this approach is not possible to run in a large class of 50 to 60 students. And in this approach, the emphasis is not given on the writing skill, and success of the approach depends much on the teacher's ability to create situations. And last is teaching or of prose or poetry is not interesting through this method. So we can see that there are some advantages and also some disadvantages of this approach, though there are some advantages and disadvantages, but we can help this approach to teach the English in the classroom of the students. That's all.